so the first thing that we are going to do is trim this plate to fit this cavity, which obviously it doesn't. So I got a special tool that I kind of built, and I use this to, well, for a lot of things actually. It's mainly used for binding, to scrape binding, but we're gonna scrape this and make this fit in here properly, but I'm trying to get an estimate of about where I need to be, or we need to start. So we're gonna start about right here, and we're gonna scrape it. Here we have it, a nice cavity cover that fits in the way it's supposed to. Okay, let's move on to sanding this body and getting it prepped for stain. Okay, the body's really good on this, so any fine tuning that we're going to do right now, we're going to hit it with 220. We're going to stick with 220 initially till we get to the fine sanding, but we're going to stick with 220 for now and just really give it the once over. Now, as you can see, that's all that required to make that a very nice surface. Of course, we still have to get in these other areas. This is a very smooth surface. This actually would be, right now, the way it's at right now, would be nice and ready for stain. Now, a lot of people use a grain filler to fill grains. We're not going to be doing that because I want the grain of this guitar to stand out. So we're going to get in the edge here real quick. Now, if you notice what I did there, is I lightly got into the areas that didn't have a real perfect sand. Now we can take a little 220 and actually get in there and do this by hand. If you want to smooth anything over where it's not quite right, up against the edges. The monkey grip inside of this is actually sanded pretty good, so whoever did the cutout for this did a good job, but we want to make sure we got smooth fingers in this monkey grip. And it's not, this is not taking much at all. As a matter of fact, it's almost finished. So, I just want a nice little rollover with no imperfections. And that is working out quite nicely. Now when we get done, we're going to use a little mineral spirits on this. And it's going to act like almost like a stain for a second to see if we have any imperfections, and then we go back through and we just take care of those imperfections real quick. But honestly, I believe this body is going to go a little quicker than the Leo Jaym is. Maybe about the same. Very impressed with the monkey grip on this, how it's sanded. Okay, so now we're going to turn over to the front. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the back. It will be that fast, and then we turn our focus to the... Okay, now we have another smooth surface. Did miss a spot right here. Now we're going to move to the edges real quick, and you may be asking yourself, oh wow, that's quick, it's going to be ready for stain. Well, not quite, because we're going to go back through and we have to raise the grain and hit it one more time. And we just use a little bit of water to do that. So, we want to be careful of the edges here. We want to roll the edges in, but not make them look like they've been touched with sandpaper. We want a nice, and we still want them to remain kind of sharp, like the real Ibanez is, but we don't want it to have any sudden sharp edges, if that makes any sense to you. So we just take it, and I just do it by hand, these edges. Really quick once over, and just like that, you can see the wood material coming off, and it's rounding the edges, but smoothing them in. So the body flows. And this takes no time at all. Literally just a once around, unless you see something that's really not precise. There we are. That's a bit better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back through with some water, and we're going to raise the grain and give it the once over just with the mouse sander. The once over, then we're going to come back and we'll do a final sand, and then it's ready for stain. Not too wet, damp. Go over this, and this will also kind of give you an idea of what it would look like with some sort of stain on it. And quickly now, it doesn't last because it dries really quick, especially if you get a good sanding job. It evaporates very quickly, but it will raise the grain as it evaporates. Now, why this is still damp, I can feel the texture raise. I'm going to peel off this. This is a 220. We're going to grab another 220. And we're going to throw this on real quick and go over again with 220 while the grain is raised. It's a total difference, so you want to make sure to do this. Gives you a great finished result. And once you are happy with that, we get in the horns up here because you just want to knock down that raised grain. It takes 2 seconds. Now, most of the time when you do it takes a little more time than this because the bodies usually aren't this good. However, this kit appears to be pretty decent. And now we've moved on to 400 grit. And same thing, just go over it quickly. 400 grit. Paying close attention to the edges. 400 grit, you just go over it kind of firm. Quickly but firm. This is really going to smooth out the finish and get it really ready for stain. Now, a lot of you might want to get into these pockets, and we can do this real quick, just to clean up whatever residues in there. You don't have to, but anything you can get out of here reduces the risk of when we do our clear of anything getting on it. When we do our lacquer. So just cleaning up the edges in here, that's the last thing I do. You might have a little edges that are sticking up in here from where they routed it out. I keep my edges crisp on the around where the humbuckers are going to go. Now when we do this, this is going to look like a stain. This is going to change the characteristic of this wood, and we can see any imperfections or flaws. And there you go. See that? So if there's something that's not quite right, you'll be able to spot it right away. And you'll know how the stain, when we use it, is going to take on this wood. You'll know what's going to stand out, any grain in particular that's going to stand out. But the real reason we do this is just to really clean the surface and prep it nicely. Okay, so there we are on that, and of course we still have stuff on it. So what I like to do is take a microfiber rag and just give the whole thing a once over, pulling out any debris. And we'll move on to the next step after this evaporates. And you really don't have to wait for it to evaporate fully. We can start applying the stain if it doesn't evaporate fully. It just thins it a bit. Oh, there we go. And that is a beautifully smooth body. Okay, so what we are going to do now is start applying stain. The surface is clean, it is prepped. We are going to go with a premium wood stain, and this is Barn Red. Now, unlike the other build that we did, we're going to experiment with this one as we go. We're going to start with a Barn Red, and if we need to darken it up, we may do some red mahogany on top of it. But let's see how the Barn Red takes on by itself. So we're not going to dilute, we're not going to thin, we're just going to put it on the red, and we're going to start rubbing it into the grain. And as you can see, a little bit goes a long ways. So I'm going to go halfway down here. Let's get in here. See what's going on. So let's introduce some dark to it now. And now we are going to introduce some red mahogany. Just a bit. And start, and let's just see what happens. Yes. That is more like it. Now we're going to do an opposite, try to do an opposite effect on the bag, and we're going to do the reverse it and see if it makes a difference. Then blend the two on the edges. There's that. And you can see now the difference. But we'll go to the sides and blend the two together. I want to make sure to get any areas that the you're going to see around the trim. So now I want to get in there with this Barn Red a little more into the tiger claw. Here we're going to see that quite a bit. There we are. Beautiful. And there we go. So now we move on to the neck, and this is just going to be a very, very quick sanding. This is an easy one. This isn't too bad. I just got to find myself some sandpaper real quick. Okay, and as you can see, this is a 5-piece neck. It is already very smooth, but I do feel a few imperfections where the 5 pieces meet. So basically that's what we're going over. And I'm starting with 220, using a back and forth motion. And as you can see, the 220 really takes this maple neck down quickly. And it's literally that quick. Remember, this is going to be lacquered, so it's going to bite onto that, but we still want a decent smooth finish. And now what we're going to move on to is 400 grit, and take that 400 and just knock it all down, and this is what will really blend the edges and make them appear more factory. Very cool. Now that we have gone this far, we're going to start polishing these frets, and we just take some fine steel wool and we start polishing. Do not worry about your fretboard, because this will polish the fretboard also. Okay, let me just give it the whole thing. Don't press down on your neck, of course. Just polish your frets and your edges of your fretboard. You'll see that that really shines them up incredibly. Getting those scalp frets. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a fresh piece. Okay. We're going to go over this whole neck now. Because this is going to make it super, super fast. We'll put a light coat, maybe, a light coat of poly on it. I'll show you a very important thing also that we have to do in a little bit, because we're going to run an Ibanez decal on it and lacquer it in. So we need to make sure that the headstock is prepared properly for that, or it will lift when the lacquer hits it. I hope you can see the edge of this fretboard coming to life. I can't wait to see what the Guitar Kit World Kit holds when it comes. What is that one going to look like? How is that going to be? Right there. I'm not going to use any. I'm not going to use any mineral spirits or anything on that, simply because the mineral spirits that I used, as I've said before, really can affect how the decal sits, which lays down. Decided to use the chrome and white logo. I've done these logos before, so I know where they go. So just making sure everything is there. What we have to do first is we have to make sure that it's stuck to the transfer paper, which is a pain, because a lot of times they're not. And, they're both pretty easy to work with if you've done them before. We peel it off the transfer paper, make sure the gem, everything comes off. So how this works is this end here is going to point towards, right on the tip right here. It meets the tip. The point up by the eye on the white goes towards the second tuner, just like so. And that goes just like that. That is exactly how they lay. A lot of people don't get these right. So what you want to do now, before you peel this off even, is apply some heat. And I'm going to do that off camera, but we're going to apply some heat to this and make sure that it's down before we peel up the transfer paper. But this is how you see that? This is how the logo sits. So we have the point that comes right to the edge up here. So this one points down towards this edge, and this one points towards that second tuner. And it is the same on the other gem, as you can see. Okay, so we've applied our heat, and now we're just gonna peel. Should peel right off. The transfer paper should peel off if the heat was applied properly. So hopefully I did. And after we're done with this, we apply heat again and make sure the decal is down into the grain. And this actually is a perfect, see if I can get you a better exposure here. Perfect logo. I think that's too bright. There we go. There we go. How about that, guys? Does that work? So here we are the very next day, and as you can see, the stain took very well. And if you notice, it does transition. It's a little, I I just want to say dark lighter on the back, actually darker on the front, and that is by design. And what I do before we start lacquering this is I lightly go over it with some 2500 sandpaper, dry, not wet, and just make sure all the imperfections are taken off. Everything's knocked down. This is a very smooth, this surface is prepped and pretty much ready to go. And just a light scuff around the whole guitar. And then what I do is I go around with a nice clean microfiber to take off any excess debris. And then I go around it with a tack cloth and just tack it off real quick and make sure there's no debris left from the micro. And that's it. It's going to be quite a beautiful guitar. This lighting is a little bit different than the actual color. Hopefully I can show you guys exactly what it's going to look like in the end here. But there it is. So let's get to lacquering. Well, you make sure you find a well-ventilated area and a place where you're not worried about lacquer getting all over everything. This is what we're using. We're using Watco lacquer, crystal clear. Now you want to shake it up pretty good. Make sure it's warm. I actually set this on one of the heaters in the house. Get it nice and warm. Shake it up really well. I've been keeping this stuff shaken up for the last few days because I knew I was going to be using it. And what I built is a makeshift handle here so we can lay this lacquer on at a bit of an angle. So we don't want to tip the can and spray down because you're going to get spits and sputters. So you want to keep a nice angle where you can work it and move the guitar around. And you'll see it start taking shape right away. And I'm going to start in these, make sure it's coming out okay. We're going to get to start in these inside edges, light right here. And I like to edge it first because it's usually a neglected area. Okay, now we're going to work from top down about 12 inches away, and I hope you can see the color transformation already. It lays nicely. Do not worry if you feel that you have not gotten it good, because I assure you, within the next few coats it'll come into play. Lighter is always better, remember that. There we are. So there we go. And that's our first coat of nitrocellulose, already taking shape. Invert your can, spray it upside down until nothing comes out. You know your nozzle clean, give it a shake. Place it back on some kind of heat source so it's ready to go the next time. And if you see anything that looks heavier in spots, that will all settle in. And what I do is I hang this. I'll hang this guitar. I keep it in my hand for a few minutes to make sure everything has settled properly, and then we hang it, and then we're going to move on to the neck real quick. And here is our neck. Now I do this a little bit differently. That's because this is going to be sitting when I'm done level. So my first coat, I apply a tack coat. I let it sit for 2 hours. And then what I do is I come back and I apply this a little heavier on my headstock simply because it's going to be sitting level. So let's start spraying top to bottom, 12 inches. And this will start to seal in the Ibanez decal. And that is it. So that is our first coat. Let that sit a good 2 hours and it'll start building into itself. Now if you guys have an issue where your decal starts to raise up and lift, stop what you're doing, let it dry, and then come back later on and add additional coats. Usually when the lacquer dries, it will pull the decal back down. So stop where you're at. You do not want to put any more lacquer underneath it. So just a helpful hint there. I've ran into that issue before and it usually works itself out just fine. So there's our first coat. And we're back and we're about to apply coat number 2. Now, you may find that you may apply a couple coats and you like the look and you want to keep some of the grain exposed and not build it out of the grain, because we didn't use any sealer on this. And that's because sometimes as I go, I like the way it looks and I just stop. But we're going to do a few more coats. I want it a bit more shiny, so we're going to build up this lacquer. I do have an exhaust fan that's going to suck out the fumes, but I got it off right now because I'm obviously talking to you. But let's start in the same fashion that we did before and get our edges. Make sure no spits or sputters. Get our edges. get our hands in the process, apparently. And just get around the edge of the guitar. And then start spraying, again, 10 to 12 inches at an angle. A bit heavier this time, not a lot. And here's our headstock. We'll apply a coat, and a bit heavier on the headstock because, like I said, it will be lying flat, and that's going to take care of a lot of any sags or runs that you get. But we'll still apply it at the same angle. And the reason the neck is completely taped off is because on the back we're just going to use a thin coating of a poly to keep the neck fast and smooth and just protect it a little bit. But we will seal in this Ibanez logo. Again, from the top. A little heavier on this than I am on the body right now. And gives me a beautiful, already gleaming, beautiful lacquer. Okay, there it is. Let's get it rested in its position. And we are back for the third coat. Once again, lacquer nice and warm. Pretty warm room, even though we have an exhaust fan going out, keeping it pretty stable in here. And this is how I hang the guitar in between coats. And once again, I'm going to pull it off and use the handle. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. We're going to hit the neck. I'll be right back with the neck. I'm going to walk around with this and keep it moving. And just so we don't get any drips or sags or runs. And now we are back to the neck. And yes, it did dry in the 2 hours, so we are good there. Not a problem. Same thing, another coat. Kind of heavy. Let's cover that up that decal really well. Let's bury it right in there. Very nice, heavy, thick coat, and that's going to sit level. Full, heavy coat. Now, if this wasn't going to be sitting level, I would never do this. But sitting level, it will look really good when it's done. All right, we're back about 2 hours later, and as you can see, it's really starting to take some shape. Now, I'm going to try to get the end here a little bit real quick. I think I've been neglecting this edge. So let's start here. Go around the guitar, get the edge good again. Nice. And get up in our horns. Careful not to drop your guitar. And the reason I say that is because I actually did that once. Not with this one, but different build. Deeper and deeper. And I'm going to pull this for a little bit like I did before, get it in some heat. And let it settle and keep it moving. And one more time with the headstock. Beautiful. Very, very nice. And this is a quick look. I've done a heavy coat, slightly heavy coat on the top, and you can see that there might be a little, this I see what looks like a little sag, and that should, as this dries, suck down. And then we actually buff this guitar out afterwards anyhow. But you can see the difference in the finish. All right, and this is going to be the very last coat. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently. We're just going to spray the top, let it sit, and then I'm going to come back and get the edges. So I'm going to spray with the grain this time. Get the edges lightly. Inside the monkey grip. And I think that looks really good. We're going to do one more coat on the headstock, and I think we're going to call it quits, and we're almost out of lacquer. And here is wet coat before we let it dry and buff. And any imperfections you see will be gone when this is done. And most of them will disappear on their own as the lacquer hardens and draws into itself. As you can see, really made a dramatic change to the guitar. And looks very good. I am happy with this, for sure. So what we are going to do now is start the neck. The body is drying. We can't rub out and finish the body or the headstock for about a week. We let the lacquer cure, and then we'll go back and we'll wet sand it with 3000. That's what I use. Depending on if there's any large debris in it, we might start with 2500. But usually I just hit it right with 3000, then we do a compound and a buff, and we'll be done. So here's the neck. The headstock is lacquered as deep as we're going to go on the headstock, and as you can see, the back of it is still, it's just the smoothness where we sanded it originally. So what we're going to do with this here, make sure that all of our tape is off, and I'm going to give this a once over real quick with some steel wool. As I'm going to use a clear satin on this, I don't want a lot of shine, and a paper towel will do fine for this because we're not building up a thick coating. We're just giving it a once over. So just a bit. I don't have a lot in here anyhow, I don't think. There we are. Just a bit. And it seals the wood nicely. Just start rubbing it on. You can get it on the edge of your fretboard. That's not a big deal. Just don't get it on the fretboard. So I don't take this off. We just rub it in really, really well, and you can see it takes a nice little nice shine goes to it real quick. And then place it in the holder here. You can tell I'm not grabbing the headstock on the front because it is still fresh. I'm I'm working this in. That's the name of the game here. Just working this into the wood, not trying to overdo it. You guys can see the difference here. Major difference. Oh, very light coat. This is all this is getting. This is not really, I'm not doing this for shine, I'm just doing this for a bit of protection. And our neck is now complete. We'll just sit it in here, let it dry. It'll be dry within a few minutes because we did it so thin. And that neck is going to be very fast, not a lot of shine, just a fast, smooth neck with a smooth surface, and that's all it takes. So one more thing before we actually assemble this to the guitar, and I want to condition the fretboard. And those of you who watch this channel know what I use. We use some organic coconut oil. It conditions very, very well, and we can do the same thing. We can use a paper towel, and we just fold it up into a square, like so. And we're going to be using the edges to start because we want to start getting up next to the frets first. So we want to get it in there. You'll see right away the difference of the frets, the fretboard, how much this will make it shine, and is an excellent conditioner for a fretboard. Excellent. And I don't use it. I don't use it liberally. I put a bunch up top, and I just keep going back to the top and grabbing it. If I need more, if it looks a little dry in spots, I use it. And we go back through afterwards, and we just wipe off the excess, but get up close to your frets. This makes everything nice and smooth also. Coconut oil has been used for a long time on fretboards, and a lot of people don't know about it, actually. Very safe and effective. It really is a beautiful fretboard. Start taking the time to really clean it up and make it look good. Everything looks really, really nice on the, now it's really bringing out where before this just looked green. Now you're actually seeing that mother of pearl look. And you'll see the debris that's pulling off of the fretboard. I really hope you guys are still seeing the beauty that's starting to unfold here. With this entire build. Now, if you haven't built a guitar before, if you take your time and you don't get stressed out, you're really gonna find that there's a lot of zen. You really can enjoy this if you're not stressed. If you're rushing to get one of these done, you're an impatient person, and I gotta tell you, I'm an impatient person, but when I'm doing these, it slows me right down. It makes me enjoy it. It's really zen for me, seeing a product emerge that that you really had a hand in. And if it doesn't play right at the end, as long as it's a quality kit, of course, it doesn't play right at the end, you can go in, do some alignment, fix it up, make it your own, set it up the way you want. So to answer the question at the beginning of these video series, is it really worth it to build your own guitar and set it up the way you want? Well, if it's a quality kit, then honestly, that's a major yes, because the sense of accomplishment, for one, is simply one of the best feelings in the world. And when you build your guitar and you do it the way you want, and you sit back and you look at that guitar, it's hanging on your wall and you're playing it, it's really hard to let go. My first build over here on the wall, the Les Paul style build that I did, really, it's not perfect at all, it's one of my first builds, but it plays so nice. And then you learn and you go back and you fix things, and it plays so nice. I have a real hard time even letting it go. I wouldn't trade it for, you know, anything. And it plays so good. Now, as you can see, this coconut oil is soaking in. That's what we want. We want it so if it starts getting light on you and you start seeing light spots, go back and put another coat on, because it's doing its job and soaking into the fretboard, and that's exactly what we want. And if your fretboard ever gets super dry, we want it dry, but we want it nourished. And if it ever starts getting, the color starts disappearing again, and that's good there. Then we take a dry paper towel and go back and we just hit it, make sure it's not a greasy mess. But if you find that it starts losing some of its luster, just go back with some coconut oil, rub until you get the luster, because it doesn't last forever. It's a really good natural way of keeping your fretboard nice, beautiful. And then let's get you closer so you can see. And there's our neck. And look at this vine. Isn't that gorgeous? So this is a gold, almost like a, it's like a gold pearl vine. And then we have the abalone mother of pearl look here, and then our white pearl in the center, and of course our scalloped frets. And there's a look at the side, very beautiful. And there's a look at the 5-piece, which is lightly urethaned, as I said. Keeps it nice and fast, smooth neck. Look at the back. There's our headstock and our logo. And there's a look at the nut. Very pretty. Okay, so here we are. Lacquer is pretty dry. We're going to have to wait about a week to buff this out, but what we can do is start getting some things kind of put into position and ready to go. We will insert the trem grommets, and here they are. Now, first thing I always do is make sure that the heads are functional and not stripped out, and these ones appear to be fine. What we want to do is take the screw-in portion out and set these in place. They should sit in place rather easy, and with a light tap down, be good to go. We want them flush, and it's simple to achieve. Just be very careful that you don't hit your wood. Push them down with what you can with your hands. And what I like to do is line up a socket that's about the same size and use a brass hammer. Simply tap them down. Until they are flush. Just take your time. That is flush, and I'll do the same here. Way we don't lose them. And based on the other gem, I'll just get it in the general vicinity. We're going to be running 9 to 42 strings on this. So I'll set it about there. And now I'm on the search for the other one. There it is. And there is that. The button, and there's a little rubber. You put that through. Rubber goes, and these are plenty long enough. A lot of times you got to worry about them not being long enough. So we're going to start that right where I'm trying to work for the camera here instead of myself, so I apologize if it takes me a little bit longer than it normally would. Let me just start that like so. Better bite. The last build I had to use the other screwdriver. So I'm going to use this one. Let me just start it. Now what I should be able to do, now that it's started, is I actually use my drill to zip it in gently. That's it. Mahogany's a lot heavier than a basswood. Basswoods are very light, and your mahogany has a tendency of being darker, especially when applying stain. So definitely mahogany, definitely has the weight of mahogany, definitely not a basswood. Okay, so now that we've done this, and we'll place our grommets in, the beveled edge faces up, just so you know. Beveled edge up. These are nice chrome ones. The other kit was black, and these are chrome. And one thing that I wish my neck was, I don't think I mentioned this before, I wish my neck was not drilled out. I don't mind the body being drilled out, but I did not want the neck drilled out because I wanted to make sure the neck was very precise. But it is, so we have to deal with the factory holes. We're going to place, this is the right one. Help if we place the right screw in there. There we are. 1, 2, track them all down. There we are. Very odd setup. Okay, I just want it just coming through the other side because that's gonna line me up with the neck. And I believe we are in a line. I believe we are in a line here. Okay. And I notice I'm not driving anything in yet. That's because I want to make sure that everything is fitting properly. And ideally, these should all start tightening up at the same point, which they are. And see exactly how it's going to be. Now I'm going to put a little more pressure. I'm going to do this slowly. And I like to get the top first, and then do the bottom. And I am controlling the power of the drill, so if it sounds like it's going bad, it's not. I'm just controlling the power. And I want to see how this is sitting with minimal pressure, if it's laid down flat. And it is not. So, we're going to install our claw. And the claw simply goes in the center here. It kind of free floats. I've seen a lot of people install these in different ways. I actually install it so it's kind of flat here on the bottom because the springs actually pull it, so I don't want it up against the plate. So I kind of just stick it right down right here, kind of. But what you want to do before you install this, because you're going to be grounding a wire to this, and this spot right here, this little nub that sticks up, that's where you actually solder your ground to. So take a little sandpaper before you put this in, and rough that up so the solder sticks, because sometimes this is coated, so you want to make sure that it's got a surface that it will solder to. So just I'm taking some 220, just rubbing the inside of it here so it has a surface from now on, that's all. Okay, and I do these a little bit differently also. So on the claw, a lot of people drill out the hole for the claw. I don't like to do that. I take a sheetrock screw and I use them as a pilot. And what I do is center it where the claw is going to go, pretty much eyeball it. And I don't want this running. You can make a mistake and run this through the other side of the guitar. So be be careful you don't do that. You want a pretty straight angle here. Now, as you can see, this is a sheetrock screw, but that's creating my hole. So I don't want to get in there with a drill. And this is going to create the other hole, another sheetrock screw. And I simply just push down on the neck, line it up, and we get the same angle. I screw it in. And this just gives me a pilot, kind of like the other screws did. I just start them, and you'll see where the claw will rest. See that? And you can't go wrong this way, really. As long as you got a good bit on your screwdriver and a couple of small sheetrock screws, it just cuts very nice. And then we can take these out, like so. Take our sheetrock screws out. Grab our screws that go with the claw. And we can start them. And then finish up with the either by hand if you feel comfortable, by hand, or you have a small enough drill to get in there. You can do it with that. But you'll see that this is not breaking through the other side, and that's really the goal. And I'm just putting these in for now. A lot of times I change these out because I feel that the qualities of some of these isn't that great, and I might have an aftermarket one that'll, as far as the screw goes, so they don't break off. These particular tuners that come with this kit are labeled R2, R3, R4, R5, R6. I don't know why. There is 2 R4s, so but they all appear to be the same, so we should be okay. We'll start here, drop our washer on lightly. And put our nut on. We're going to turn this over, and we want to make sure that they're going to be perfectly straight. And we're going to use the same process that I used on the last build, process I swear by. So hold on a second, find the straight edge. There it is. We simply take our straight edge now, and we go up against all of the tuners. We make sure that they're all in a line, and that is it right there. Okay, so we can do the same thing with this, and this will actually center it even better. So there we are, and a couple twists just right where we need it. Creates a point for it to screw into. So what I'm doing now is just starting these screws, and don't snug these down all the way yet. And it's best if you have a magnetic screwdriver too, by the way. But don't snug these down. Using the pilots that we just made with the sheetrock screw, just kind of start them. We'll start biting quick. And we double check our straightness before we screw anything down. You can see that there's a few that have moved. So what we do, get these just past the point of the tops. Or you can put them down far, just so they're not tight if you want to too, but I like to do this as a slow process. And if you notice, I'm not using any power tools on this because I just don't want to slip and hit the headstock. And the secret to this is not to tighten these first. Tightening these first is going to hinder you. So once you get this done, make sure everything's straight and low. We can do this from the other side too. We straight, make sure they're straight. And that's very close right there. Very, very close. Now we have to actually take these tuner keys, put them and kind of line them up like so. There. This is why you don't tighten anything up. So I'm going to take this one and loosen it and simply pull it out, straighten it, pull it, snug it. And that's better. And we can split differences now because there's leeway. And everything. There we are. It's all about the aesthetics and how they appear to each other. So I'm going to go through. We're going to tighten these if I can. Let me get my ratchet. We're going to keep these, snug them up, not too tight yet. Snug, so they're in place and not going to move on you. We are. There we are. Okay. We're going to flip the guitar back over and check these again. And you can see, hopefully you guys can see, that they're in alignment. They look good. They appear good. And that's where these come into play. So we're going to lock these down right where they need to be. We don't tighten these. A lot of people tighten these right down. That's going to throw the tuners out. Just snug. We don't want the tuners moving, and then we come around to the other side and we do a final tighten. Okay, so those are all snug but not tight, and now we come around to the other side. We give these not a tighten but a snug. Very cool, very nice. And of course we got fingerprints all over the tuners, so we can clean that up. And as you can see, nice and straight. Okay, now we are going to line up the cavity cover. And I like to use a square to make sure that everything is correct. And I want the distance on one side to be the distance on the other. And you see, you have to be careful because you don't want your holes to take out of the edge of the wood. So you're going to drop this down and make sure you're even on each side, and that's the first part. And we can just simply eyeball that, move the square over. We know we're even, drop it down to where it needs to be into this area, and make sure we got enough meat there, make sure we got enough meat there. And as long as this is square, don't pay attention to the neck lining up, because I've made that mistake before on builds, and because a lot of times these cavities aren't cut out like you would think. So there's that, and there's that, and there's that. So that's how that is going to sit, just like that. And to maintain these holes, or I'm sorry, I'm bumping things around, I apologize. To make sure we're putting them in the right places, we can do the safety pin trick. But what I like to do, because it's going to be temporary, is take another push pin, where this is, I want to make sure I'm still square. I think I just moved it, and I did just a little bit. So there we are. what I'm going to do is, now we know I want, this is the point I want to start with. Center that. And I'm going to put that safety pin there. I can take another safety pin, center it. I say safety pin, push pin. Center it there. Okay, I'm taking this one out because this is a better one. And I'm going to redo it. There we go. There we go. I'll show you why we're just going to go around and do this now. Okay. There. And be very careful not to move it. Make sure it's centered. Don't move it. Boom. And boom. And now all of our holes are marked, so we know where they're going. Very simple. Now they're all marked. We know where the screws are going. We can actually take these screws now. I'm not going to put the plate on because we got to get in there. But we can start these screws. We know we have them, and we're not going to lose them. And we know now, and we can see them going straight, which is nice too. Come a long ways, obviously, from when we started, and we're getting there. It's getting there. So we'll be stringing this up shortly, and let me bring you over. And I'll have to apologize because everything is in disarray right now. This is the way this build's going to be. So what we do, let me get my tuner. We're going to set these holes with these tuning machines up, so they're pretty much running straight up and down. So this one's going to meet the string this way. This one's going to go straight up and down, so the holes are straight up. There we go. There we go. These, the ratio of these is actually really good. Wow. I'm going to go back on that. That's lined up. Yeah, it's not taking many turns to get the ratio on. So now all of our holes are facing down. So when we run our strings, we'll keep the ball ends on, and they will stay right here and just run right down the length of the whole thing. So hopefully everything is on the money with the neck, and it meets the trim. So we'll get to that next. I got some cleaning up to do, then we'll do some final assembly. Okay, so we're going to start assembly of this thing, and I apologize if these videos aren't of great quality. It's been a really hectic week, but I want to get this out to you. It's turning out to be a nice build so far, but of course the end result is plain. We're going to assemble this thing. Later on we got to take it back apart anyhow because we're going to have to wet sand and buff the entire guitar. So I'm not going to shield it yet, but we're going to get some things wired, and I don't have any quick releases, so we'd be using them. But so the black is going to go through, or supposed to go through, to the cavity. Try to twist these together a bit. There we go. There's that. Putting those into that cavity. Now, I want to make sure that these wires are going to line up okay. So as long as that's in there and that's going into the cavity there, we're good. Let's make sure we have ample room for our wiring. It sometimes can be a pain. I just found it. There we go. There's our sweet spot. And we know we're going to run this pick guard. Let's zip in the pick guard screws, at least get them in place. I think that's as close as we're going to get anything is where it is right now. So that looks about right. So just start putting those in. And the reason I'm not putting them all in is because if I have to go back and rewire or something like that, the switch is working, pots are turning, so everything's good there. So that's good. Down, I put these screws back where they were. It's a good looking guitar for sure, and I can't wait to rub it out and get the little blemishes off the top and the lacquer off. I think we stopped with the lacquer at just the right time where we left a little wood grain. It's absolutely beautiful. The fretboard looks beautiful. Hopefully everything's straight. And so far it's a very straightforward build. So far. So, string tree, we'll have to do that in a little bit. We're going to set up the trem. And set that in there. Let me raise the trem up. You can simply know it's not going to be right where it is. Off. Move that to the side. You got to flip this over. And this is a pain. Can be. We want kind of keep this here, like so. All right. So first thing we have to do is plug in our soldering iron. Okay, I thought I paused it, apparently I didn't. So we're gonna hook the switch up. What we gotta do is run these wires now out to the outside of the body, there. This is our ground. We're going to take some solder. What I'm gonna do is put a little solder first right on the wire itself here. See that? If we got to heat it up enough. And that's just gonna help us when we actually go to solder it. Do the same thing down here with these two wires. Here. Just a little bit of solder on the wires themselves, and this will help it when we go to solder it to the switch. There'll be something for it to stick with already. There we are. There we are. And if you remember earlier, we took this, and this is our soldering point right here. Okay, and I can actually take a little bit, make sure it's going to stick, a little bit of solder, and put a little dot right there on it. We'll take this wire. As long as it's cleaned up enough, and I did a good job, it should stay. And there we are. That's it. So that is now grounded. And hopefully I can tuck the excess back in. Nothing's going to get hung up. And now we're going to wire our jack. And I think some things need to be bent back into shape here because I think they're a little out of whack. So let's move that there. Use the handy dandy. We're going to get some solder there. Then we put our ground on. Let it cool for a second. And that should be, well, this is just a test, so I'm going to go test this and make sure it works, and then we'll do our final assembly. That's why I didn't put anything on. So I'm going to go test the pickups and make sure they work real quick. So that's correct. So that was easy to find out real quick, and now we can just tuck it in, put our nut on. As long as everything stays soldered, we'll be good. Hopefully this tightens up easy. Just snug it for now. And there we are. And we can put our cavity cover on now, on that part. There, and that just pops in. If you remember, we trimmed that out before. So now, find out where our little screws went here. There we go. Throw a couple in that. Yeah, this cavity cover lacked a little bit to be desired for sure. And no protective covering over it, which was really odd. No peel off coating. First I've seen that in a kit. Usually these pick guards all have plastic over them, so when you peel it off, it looks really great. This actually has scratches in it and everything else, but the rest of the guitar is nice. Okay. Then before, well, first we'll hook up the center spring here. There's our center. There we go. And we'll hook this one in. And I'm just doing the V pattern. Very popular pattern, by the way. There we are. As such, I flip it over. And what you do now is you put these knife edges in the groove, and we place, to do this properly, you place a 9-volt in here. But I have this little tool that I use, and I place that right there instead. Kinda, there we go. And we'll string it up. And stringing these up is a bit different also. And I hope I can see the gauge of these strings. And I hope they're not too tangled. Just take your time unwinding these things. I did this before, and it turned into a nightmare, and I just ended up throwing some in the garbage before. I don't know what the gauge is of these. So anyhow, if you're using 9 to 42, this height on the tremolo bar turns out almost perfect when you get done. However, I don't know what gauge these are, so I'm just kind of winging it right now. And of course, we will put some good strings on it definitely later on, but we have to see how this is going to play with just a normal build first. Like I said, these are always a major pain to get apart. I do not like how they do this. You manufacturers, if you're listening, come on, man, just give us some good strings in a bag. Give us some slinkies or something. I'll pay the extra $10. See, we're running into that issues. Getting these things undone here. What a pain. Not fun. Not fun at all. Not fun at all. Come on, guys. Loosen up. There we go. Come on. There. I think we're getting it. We're getting it. We're getting it. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's number 6? Number 6 is right there. There we go. Let's see. How are we untangled? There we are. Okay. So we're going to do this. And how you do this, first I gotta loosen up the locking nut. Actually, let's just pull the locking nuts off real quick. Not the locking nut, but the clamps. Pull those right off. And then string. We leave the ball end on. Let me look at the camera, see if you can see what I'm doing here, guys. You probably can't. Now what we're gonna do is leave the ball end on. Run it down. Make sure your tuners are all straight in the positions they need to go for the strings. Pretty close. Take this, just string it, let the ball sit right there, sit it to the side. Fine. Two string here, right there. Same thing. Show you guys a cool trick if you didn't watch my other video. Sit it down to the side. The right sizes here. That's why I like them bagged. You get in bad lighting or something, and at least you know what string's going on. There you go. The side. The reason we leave the ball ends on is because it requires less winds that way, and less winds equals more accurate tuning. And that is the word. Now, these two. Let's see, which one is thinner? That one is okay. That is from Steve Vai's Guitar Tech. He strings his guitars this way. And it makes it a lot quicker. You'll see when I'm done here. Hopefully. Now you take all these strings. We will be putting on our string tree in a little bit too. Okay, there we are. Now what we can do is now, watch this, that literally almost falls right out and our strings are low and this is about level. So depending on where our tuning is going to be, that'll vary with how this is going to be. But generally, when you have a proper whammy bar, it should be 2 inches, Steve Vai style, off of the pickguard. At least that's how he does it. So there we are with that, and as you can see, the action is really low. So right now, but we don't have it tuned. We do have to still put our string tree on it. So let's get doing that next. Okay, and there is that. Then we'll take the drill, and I'm gonna zipper it if I can. And here it is complete. Turned out quite beautiful. It hasn't been tuned yet. I'm gonna be on that in a second. I'm really impressed with the build quality of this kit. There's a few things that I wish were different, such as a recess for the body cavity cover. But overall, it's beautiful. And if you look at that tremolo, I'm almost convinced that that is a nickel plating. It's really high quality. I haven't seen a trem on a kit that's actually the quality that this one was. The neck is superb, as you can tell. It turned out great. Scallop frets. You have the gold pearl, you have the abalone, you have the white pearl. Very nice. And you see we went with a white pearl truss rod cover. String tree went on rather easily as long as you place it a half inch from the nut. You're good to go there. The electronics do work fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful build. We're going to get in. We're going to get it tuned up. And I can tell you already, because I'm voicing this over, it does play amazing, and I didn't have to adjust the neck, not one bit, which was kind of weird, but it was right on to just kind of hit the sweet spot, I guess. Beautiful guitar. Aesthetically, it looks great. It plays great, and I will tell you that it sounds magnificent. I don't know what brand pickups they use or who makes them. I was going to do a pickup upgrade in this thing, but to be honest, there's just no point. And let's look at this 5-piece neck. And to me, this is worth the price of admission to the kit. This neck itself is a work of art. The tuners are remarkably stable and uniform, no grit, and they have a very nice ratio. So, you know, half a turn really makes some nice adjustments with the strings themselves. So leave your comments below what you think about this build, and we'll be back soon with some playing and some comparison with the Leo Jaymz kit. And you know, they're two different kits. They're both good kits. I can recommend them both, although I have to say the BYO kit is a superior kit if you're buying one. And for the $219, like I said, it's worth the price of admission. Just for the neck. And once again, look at the Floyd Rose, and it's not an actual Floyd Rose, it's just licensed by, but look at the plating on this thing. And it's a dark plating. It looks like a nickel. It's smooth. Everything works, and the fine tuners are magnificent on this thing. So really, really awesome build. Couldn't be happier. The logo turned out great on the headstock. The lacquer turned out phenomenal. Just left just enough in the wood grain to make it glisten and shimmer. It has not been wet sanded. It has not been buffed. And to be honest with you, I mean, you could pass without doing it. It's that good. But of course, we will do it in about a week's time. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please hit that like button, share, subscribe, because we're going to have more on this particular guitar coming soon, such as playability and a comparison with the Guitar Kit World kit that's on its way. And I'm expecting a lot from the Guitar Kit World kit. Will it compete with the BYO? We'll have to see. But this is going to be a tough one to top, I'm not going to lie. There's just a lot of quality that went into this kit. In particular, what you're looking at right now, that beautiful, beautiful fretboard that is, I mean, just lightning fast neck, lightning fast frets. It's just like playing them with butter. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye. And here is our end results of the two. On the right, the Leo Jaymz kit. And yeah, there's a lot of money in this kit, but the kit itself is decent. It's a $149 kit. It does have a nice neck. It is not as extravagant as the BYO neck, and it does not have the tiger claw like the BYO kit has. Here, as you can see. And the BYO kit just turned out fantastic. I hope you guys can see that, how that wood grain pops with the lacquer over it. And this would have been a beautiful build using the wood pick guard. And if you want to, you know, do high-end pickups or whatever, but I will tell you they sound really good. And what I'm really impressed with, and I don't know if the camera can show, is the tremolo itself looks like it's nickel plated. I mean, it's very beautiful. It's nice and heavy duty, and it works good. So the trem that is in this one, I ended up going with a Tone Ninja, and it's a very good tremolo also, just in black. So let's go over this. Here's our input jack on the side of the Leo Jaymz kit, and of course our input jack on this one goes back in at an angle like it's supposed to, like the real Ibanez Jem. Does have the dragon claw like the real Ibanez Jem. This one does not. Of course, this has the dark matter pickups, F-spaced. These are also F-spaced. The handle is correct on this one. On the front, it is correct on this one on the front. The inlay in the fretboard is very, very nice on this. It does not have scallop frets. And here is our headstocks. Of course, this is a little, hasn't been buffed out yet on this headstock because I never did it after I lacquered it. And this does have Geiger tuners. This one has the factory tuners that came with it, and this is not buffed out yet, of course, either, because they've just been done. The tuners hold tune really, really well, so I'm impressed with the tuners. Both very, very nice, just different. Well, so let's flip them over, and let's take a look at the backs of these guitars, and there's a big differences in the back. Let's get this one over. And these both finished very, very nice. I definitely got my desired effect on both of these. So, on the Leo Jaymz, there should be a little notch right here on the real Jem. There's a notch. This one has it. You see the difference here in the grip. And it is the right shape, however, it does not have that. And here is your cavity cover, just a basic cavity cover, and it is not recessed. No hole for the jack because it's in a different position. This one has a cover for the jack recessed, although this is not recessed, and that kind of bothered me. This is a two-piece neck, maple, and I say two-piece because it's scarf jointed up top. And those are our Geiger tuners on this. And these, I haven't taken the stickers off yet, but these are our standard. I should take those off. Peel those off here, and that's what they look like. Nice looking tuners, and they work really well. Straight, the holes are drilled straight, and as you can see, they're on straight. 5-piece neck, and you can see the nut goes through, the screws go through for the nut on the other side the way it's supposed to. There you go. The only thing I've done is add some Ibanez logos because I like the look, and I think imitation is the best form of flattery. So there you have it, guys. Finished build. Stay tuned because we have the Guitar Kit World kit coming also. There'll be 3 sitting next to each other. We can do a comparison of all of them, and we will also do a sound test on every single one. Thanks for watching, guys.